Here. We have 3 members present. We do have a quorum.
Can we please stand and salute the flag?
All
Would the
right.
clerk read the first item on the agenda?
Item number 1. This is a ordinance that's offered by Council John Hanlon. In order to amend Section 12-47 of the revised ordinances relative to a new fee schedule for garages.
Okay, does everyone have a copy of the order?
I do.
Councilman Mangan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to, I know we have the Assistant City Clerk here, Mr. Cornelio, if we could invite him up forward to speak on this.
Would you please come up?
Sergio Cornelio, Assistant City Clerk.
If you could just, Mr. Cornelio, could you just explain this amend section and the reasons for it and so forth?
So yes, I'm actually going to be here for all the pieces. These were written by myself or the City Clerk. The first piece is something that over the course of the last 14 months being in the office, I've been going over ordinances, fee schedules, things of that nature, and came across this. The current schedule is much lower than it currently is proposed for. It was originally written in 1938. It was barely amended in 76. All it did was take off the renewal fee schedule, so we've been charging the same amount since 1938, which is $3, $5, $10, $15, and $25. And obviously, as time goes on, normally fees go up. We don't want to kill any businesses, but I put it reasonably, a reasonable increase, something that is still lower than most other communities in the area. Revere, Somerville, Medford, Malden charge flat fees anywhere from $100 to $200 to $300. Doesn't matter how many cars you have, how many garages you have. I think this is a little more fair. It gives a schedule with 5 different ranges, from only 4 to 10 cars all the way up to 51 plus. It does not hurt anyone. It just puts a smaller fee, especially now we have fire department, ISD. They all have to do multiple inspections on these property. If they're, especially the larger places, they need to make sure that they have sprinkler systems. So the fire department is there, half a day working to make sure the sprinklers are working, and it's taking a lot of time and our resources. So this is just to help cover the costs. It still does not pay for our employee to go out and do it. I also do some inspections, but it is just to increase the fee to a little larger rate, and what I believe is still hopefully reasonable.
Thank you. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman DePiero?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Assistant Clerk, to your knowledge, how many garage licenses has the city issued?
We have total in the range of 40. Many of them are in the lower range, so the 4 to 10, not very many large ones. I think the larger ones constitute probably about 15. So, I mean, again, this is not a moneymaker for the city by any means. It's just to raise it to a rate that I believe it should have been. I think this was just overlooked over all these years. Almost every other fee was redone in about 2002, between 2002 and 2006, and this one was just kept being overlooked.
I don't
So-
have the entire ordinance in front of me, but what constitutes a garage license? Is it
so-
anyone for profit or a parking lot considered?
So parking lot's different. That's open air.
Okay.
That's an open air vendor. We also have that license that comes through our office. These are even some residential homes. If they have 4 bays, they tend to rent them out, and so they're making $100, $200, $300 a month per bay, and we were charging them $3 a year. And now I'm still going to charge them $10. So it was just to put up the fee because we have to go and inspect them. So it's residential ones. There aren't too many of those, but mostly commercial garages, say like down at 69 Norman Street. I think there are 4 locations on that property that have garages. I think LTI was one of them at one time. Now they'll be gone. But they're companies like that have garages, that garage vehicles for profit.
Just
So
one
that's
last
what
question. Do we
constitutes it.
have any that are in that top range, the 51 plus?
Yeah, I think there's only 3. I can't remember the names of the companies. Sacro Plaza would be one of them.
Thank you.
Park Plaza, yes, thank you, Park Plaza, Sacra Plaza, thank you. I think there's only 3 of them, though.
Any further questions? From the chair?
Yes.
How do these rates, how do these figures stack up to our surrounding communities?
So, Revere and Malden charge a flat fee. One charges $100, doesn't matter if you have 1 car or 1,000,000 cars. Malden is $200. Somerville is, I think, $605. And they're flat fees. They don't have the incremental where if you only have 4 to 10 cars, it doesn't matter. You have 4 cars or 104, it's the same flat fee. So only at our top rate are we even close to any other surrounding community. And now they have 51 plus cars, they're making money, that's why we did it this way. We thought to keep it in the same rate, just increase the fees a little. And so the surrounding communities overall are much higher than us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, for favorable action.
Second the motion?
Okay, we have a motion for favorable action. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. If you could sit.
Yes.
Ms. Clerk, could you please read item number 2?
Item number 2 is the ordinance sought by Council John Hillen. This is the ordinance limiting the number of second-class motor dealer licenses.
Yes.
No, go ahead. I was just going to ask him to explain.
Okay.
Just want to have the
Yes.
the
Okay.
clerk explain again.
This
Thank
was
you.
again, so this one and the next piece are to limit how many motor dealers and then repair shops. We'll start with the motor dealers. Currently, we license 40 motor dealers. We have now 35 licensees because a few have sold. We'll look at the place next to GT Lounge, which is now demolished and will not be coming back. We have 4 locations that are already gone, and then the new Backyard property, which is the old Harley, will be gone by the beginning of the year, so we'll be down to 35. By doing it this way, I think if you see, it's 1 per every 1,300 residents at 42,000 residents. It gives us that range of 35, I think it's 34.6 something, so it's 35 licenses. We had discussed a little with the administration, their views of this, especially where, we're trying to present a different community, a little cleaner businesses, and having this many dealerships. Second, and I hope we understand, this isn't the new dealerships, these are used car dealers. They give us by far the most grief. I inspect them weekly for issues when residents call that they have issues with, not all of them. We have some great dealers, but we have problem ones also. They tend to be some of the biggest issues in our city. And I think it's time that we start to limit them. I worked on this with President Hanlon. He's the one that actually came up with a way to write it with the 1,300 instead of just giving it a flat number. And I think it's going to be overall very good, especially we're not hurting any current businesses. That is what I want to make sure. No current establishment will be kicked off their lot. If someone sells their business and someone wants to be a motor dealer again, it does not affect them. It only affects anyone that has already left and is out. So you can't just create a new dealership somewhere on the Parkway where there wasn't one. That's what this is going to limit. So we don't have new ones come in. It's going to just keep the status quo, what we have, and drop that 5 that have already left the city.
Thank
And
you.
that's why we did this.
Mr. Cornelio, too, I also feel, too, and I think actually this is a great ordinance, but one of the other things you just mentioned is that I know in the past, whether it's been Chelsea Street or some other areas in the city, we've had issues with different owners not doing the right thing. And so I think we should also look at really, maybe even over time, even trying to drop this number even a little bit lower, especially if there's multiple, most of these are used car dealerships. Because as you said, we are trying to change the image of the city going forward. So, you had mentioned that, transferring a license, so for instance, a dealer that's there now went out of business or whatever, and they decided somebody else was gonna come in there, they wouldn't be scrutinized as,
Well, you still have the authority,
Right.
so you're the licensing authority, and there's no transferring licenses, so someone just can't pass it. Like we had the other night from 80 Tremont, we'll use an example, that was Mel's, then
Right.
Tedisco, and now Malden. They couldn't just transfer it over, you had to issue a new license. I had to revoke the old one, take it back from Tedisco, and then they came before you, and you approve it. What I was saying is that you still have the authority to not
Correct.
grant it, but it would not affect them because of this. We're not allowed to do that. I could have also changed this number. It could have been 1 per every 1,600 and dropped it to 30. So that way, down the road, as more fall off, we're at the 30. It still doesn't affect those people, but now we don't have to give any more than 30 once we hit that number. That was my idea, and
That's something
we
that
can
actually-
legally do it, just President Hanlon
All right,
didn't
no, but
want me to
even
go
I-
lower.
Right,
but-
and I understand that, but at least for something down the road, and especially as we get more and more progressive development here in our city, I would certainly,
And I'm
hopefully
going
would
to be...
take a look at this on a year-to-year basis.
And I'm going to, so when the census changes, also, we'll have to probably change this number anyway, so that's 3 years from now. We go by the federal census, because this may not be enough. You know, if we go up to 50,000, say, residents at 1,300 per, it might bring that number back up to 37 car dealers. I had already been looking at that. So in that case, I'm going to be cognizant. I'm going to make sure that I check the numbers every year, and then especially during the census year to see what's going on, and bring back to the council anytime we lose a dealer where they don't sell and it just goes out of business. Because I would like to bring the number. To me, 30 used car dealers is plenty in 2.5
I agree.
square miles.
I agree.
I mean, I know there's a need. We all need to buy cars. There's so many dealers. They're on every little corner. They stick them in spots, and a lot of it can't be zoned because they've been in business prior to 1993 when the zoning laws came into effect. So they don't have to provide for parking. They don't have to have repair shops. I mean, it's really frustrating where some of the new properties have to abide by all those rules, and you know the 3 or 4 or 5 little dealers that just don't listen to anything we say. I'm there weekly, fighting with them. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the tough part of my job, and no one listens to you, and especially them. You kind of feel bad because they're trying to make a buck, but I mean, you stick yourself in between 2 little businesses and sell cars out of there. I mean, it's not the correct
Right,
way.
right, exactly.
It doesn't
It's-
look good for our
yeah,
city. It doesn't look
exactly.
good driving down the
That's
street
what
to
I'm
see
getting
that.
at.
And we just, we're tied, our hands are tied with zoning because they've been there so long that we can't do anything about it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Perro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clerk, you pretty much just summed up what I was going to say. I think this is a good piece. I understand the need for dealerships. But then again, Everett is a few square mile city, 35 still kind of a lot for a small city, and we do have a few fly-by-night operations that you deal with on a daily basis, and I'm
I was
certainly in
at 2
favor of
today.
this. Thank you.
From the chair, just a quick question now. So it's 35 right now? And this will
No,
cut it to
currently
30?
we have 40.
We have
Sorry.
40.
I think on the new paper, if you saw the new, I actually wrote it on the top. The ones I did last week weren't full. Now with the preamble, I put it in the preamble. So it's 40 going to 35 for the motor dealers. Should be in the first line of the preamble. That's roughly, I think like I said, with 42,000 and change residents minus 13 times 1,300 there, it becomes 34.7 something, so that's pretty much 35.
And are all those licenses issued right now, or are there some
So-
available?
Currently, we have 36 licenses issued, 4 are available, and we're going to lose 1 more because of the, I can't remember, Somerville Motors, it's where the old Holly is.
Mhm.
They are going to be out, I think, January, February. So that's why I chose 35,
So when
because...
we pass this, this will physically reduce the number of licenses that are currently available?
Correct.
Unless somebody
And it
plops
does,
right in and...
correct, and there's no one being affected day one,
Right.
because it'll be, if you pass this over the next month, by the December 31st is actually when the licenses start coming in. They've already started to receive them. It will cut it right there at 35, and I will not have to issue any more, which will be great for our office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Move for favorable action?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for favorable action. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Recommending that, referring that to the city council with favorable action. If clerk could read item number 3.
All right. Item number 3. This is ordinance sought by Council John Hanlon. An ordinance limiting the number of auto body and auto repair licenses.
Ms. Clerk?
Just
Thank
would
you.
like-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Same thing, Mr. Cornelio. Just, the other thing is, I see it's 60 to 55. Same thing, I feel like is there any way possibly, I mean, maybe now we can stick with this, but is there any possible way in the near future to maybe even try to get this down even lower?
Yes. So this is the same example. I currently have, we have currently 5 available motor repair licenses, auto repair licenses. Repair, body, they're similar. So we have 5 licenses, whether they're combos or single licenses. That's why we put it to 55. That's why the number's at 1 for every 800. Just because currently today there's 55 out, I have a 5 gap, 5 license gap, and that's why I asked for this. And the same thing, these licenses will be coming up in the next few months. This is our license season over the next 5 to 6 months. This will drop it from 60 to 55, and that will not affect any current repair shops, but it will not add any more on corners. They're trying to stick them in little spots in the corner of Villa Ave. We had someone try to put a motor dealer in a repair shop. I mean, they're on top of each other in properties that really don't need it. And they've already, sometimes the zoning board of appeals grants them and sometimes they don't. They didn't the last time, which was great, but sometimes they go for it because they're so close that they could have a repair shop or a motor dealer. I want to cut that out so we don't have to worry about if it's going to pass or not. And I'm going to continue to monitor this, and as they drop, I'm going to come back before you, and hopefully you'll pass the same changes with different numbers. I really want it in the 50 to 45 range. It's what the clerk's office, not myself and Clerk Matarazzo and President Hanlon all discussed this. That's the range that we feel is a little more feasible. We're also going to change the fee schedule at some point. We're working on all the license schedule, just so you know. They're not going to go up too much, but they are going to have a slight increase. So we're not going to lose any money. We're not going to hurt anybody. But the city, to me, is going to be a much better place when you can drop this down. Again, 60 repair shops in 2.5 square miles. It's a lot. There's one, that's 10 in each ward. That's a lot.
Any motions?
Favorable action?
Second?
Okay, so we have a motion to refer this for favorable action to the next city council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you've passed that. Clerk will read item number 4.
Let me have this.
Item number 4. This is an ordinance sought by Council Peter Napolitano. This is an ordinance
Yeah, Michael,
to add
Michael.
new Section 3 animal care standards to the revised ordinance of the city of Everett.
Thank you. Could you give us an overview?
Yes, I want to thank Council Napolitano for sponsoring this for us. It did come from the city clerk's office again. Michael, Clerk Matarazzo, wrote this after having a discussion with our new ACO, Animal Control Officer, and she could not be here, just so you know. She had surgery, so is why she is not here to explain why she needed this. So we've looked at other ordinances in other communities, and we really didn't have any teeth for the police or a animal control officer. And we don't want them to just go and take dogs, but we have situations where people, whether they can't afford them or they just abuse dogs, and we don't have the authority to just to take them. Not that we're going to keep them or give them away. It's to give them a little better home, and still give the opportunity to the homeowner, to the dog owner, to make good on it, show that they can handle the dog, take care of it. And we see with the animal rights activists and what's going on in our country, and more dog owners in our city. I mean, this year we licensed almost 1,000 dogs, up from 850 last year. So we're increasing in the number of dogs that are coming through the community, and we feel it's a necessary thing for the animal control officer to have a little more authority. She's still not going to be able to break down doors and take animals, but when she gets a call, or a police officer gets a call, they'll be able to go to the residents to check the conditions, and they will have some authority to take it, put it in a foster home or in a some other dog daycare for a couple days, take the dog, make sure that the dog is fed and okay, and then go back to that homeowner, hopefully, and they can end up correcting the mistakes and working with the animal control officer. And it's also We have laws that you can't leave a child in a car. The same thing, they didn't want it. You know, not that you can't leave it in the car, but if it's an extreme cold or extreme heat, they want to be able to write an ordinance that a cop can go, the officer can go and break a window, take the dog out if they feel it's in danger of dying. So we don't have that anything on the books now, and this is why this ordinance was in place. Other communities, Somerville, Medford, Malden, Revere, all have similar ordinances and have utilized it, and we spoke with their animal control officers and said how much of a help it's been for them. That's why this came about. Animal control officer Giorgione asked us to write something, and Clerk Matarazzo did that over the last few weeks.
Councilman DePiero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clerk, aside from the violations proposed in this ordinance, isn't there criminal liability for animal cruelty?
There is some, yes, but this will
So
be
this-
this will be some of the civil
Yeah.
things, and I also, just so you know, I'm the civil liaison, so I go to court for all these civil offenses.
So this
That's
would-
what I do now.
This would more or less kind of be in lieu of that
In lieu
liability?
of any criminal, yeah, some of the things, you know, that they don't always go to court, they don't take the animal. This gives the authority for the animal control and the police officer to take the animal and be able to put it into custody to protect it. And they would also have to pay the fees at the, where they impound it, because the city doesn't actually hold a dog. I mean, for hours, the animal control officer might hold it, but there are places in and around Everett that we bring them for, you know, days at a time. I have all the reports. Our new ACO has been amazing. She's been really, there's about 150 reports over the last 6 months, so she's been working hard and doing a great job and reporting everything back to the clerk's office where it's supposed to be reported to.
I spoke to her a few weeks ago about this piece. She explained most of it to me, and I think it's a good piece.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Mangan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cornelio, I know you just mentioned 150, and you said you had to go to court periodically for these civil fines.
Yes.
Since the new dog, the ACO officer has come on, I mean, has there, in Everett a lot, is there a exorbitant amount of cruelty cases that we have?
So there aren't an exorbitant amount, but we did have a few where she tried to do something and take the animals, but she did not have the authority. So the dog stayed in the custody of a few places. One was near me, and the dog lived in squalor for an extra few weeks till they finally found a loophole and tried to get it out. Actually, they kind of just convinced the man that he couldn't take care of it anymore, and he ended up kind of giving it up. But it took weeks. That dog suffered for another few weeks, not eating anything, living in its own feces, because she did not have that authority to take it. And the officers went with her, but they can't just walk in and barge in and take an animal without some authority. And this gives them that authority.
No, for instance, when the ACO officer goes, let's say, goes to a residence, and how does she, is there a certain type of standards or guidelines that she has when making a decision? Like, I mean, is it, certainly living in squalor would be not.
Right, we did write things. It is a little more general. She'll, most of the time, probably, if she's going to do something like this, she'll have an officer with her
Okay.
also. Though she is an officer, she is considered a special police officer, that you gave her authority, and that hopefully will continue, so it gives her a little more authority. But she usually calls a police officer if there's something more imminent and she doesn't feel comfortable. An officer is going to have more authority at the doorstep than her. So she's pretty good at doing that, and that's what happened the last time.
Okay.
So, I mean, she knows what she's doing for the most part. And yeah, she uses whatever authority she can. If she doesn't think she can do it, she will, call an officer and for some backup, and they work together because they have all the same authority as her.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
Any further
Favorable
questions?
action?
Okay, if I could, from the chair. Now, right now, we just have one animal control officer?
Correct. We've always had one. This is just a new one.
Well, actually, we've had
Well,
two in the past, but under
More
recent years.
Correct.
that's
Since I've been
correct.
around anyway, yes.
Okay. So and how many days a week does she work?
She works 5, but she works scattered nights. So some days mornings till like 8 to 4, some 11 to 7 at night. So it depends what day. I don't know her exact schedule, but I know she does the one day the morning to early afternoon, one day early afternoon to night. That way, because she checks the parks the same. She does the same routine as they used to before. So they do that scattered shift.
And when she responds to a call, who handles that overlap when she's off?
So she does get called in. She doesn't get usually overtime. She gets some comp time. So she has been called in quite often, especially on either weekends or if she works one weekend on a Monday or Tuesday, whatever. She has, like I said, she's passed in a lot of reports for lost animals and other issues that she's filed in the clerk's office. So they usually utilize her. They call her in on her off time. I don't know if they do it all the time. I can't speak for the police department fully, but I do know that she has been called in often over the last few months for issues.
And is the police, she answers to the police chief?
Correct, but her direct supervisor is Captain Landry.
Okay, who answers directly to the police
Correct,
chief?
but I was just
Okay.
giving you,
I
yeah,
just wanna
the,
get the chain of command.
yeah, the chief is the boss, but she has a direct supervisor, which is Captain Landry.
And what's the chief, has the chief been apprised of this? What's his buy-in on this?
I think Michael spoke to, Clerk Monteroto spoke to the chief. I don't know their discussions, I'm sorry. He doesn't always relay his conversations back,
Yeah.
so.
The only reason why I ask these questions is
Yes.
I like what I see, but been doing this a long time, and with orders and ordinances, we've always, we've passed laws that are never enforced. And that would be my big concern here. It's great on paper, and it does look good. But will the average patrolman enforce this?
Well,
That's my question.
And that's a great question that I can't answer, but I know the animal control officer will enforce it when she is
Right.
available and can do
Chief could
it.
answer that question.
Correct, and
That's where my
she had
concern would
surgery,
be.
so that's why she's not here today.
Okay.
She did not just skip out, she just had surgery, so.
Okay. Now, that would be my only concern. I mean, otherwise, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
think
I
it's,
agree.
We
It's,
definitely need to have some measures that we currently don't have.
yeah,
to
our
give them
ordinances
more
are very
authority.
weak,
Uh,
actually, for,
But I would feel more comfortable if we knew that what the chief's direct input on this was.
that's
You know,
fair.
we've seen we've seen other ordinances that we've passed here and written, and nobody does anything with them. And that, another law on the books that isn't going to be enforced, isn't, you know, this is about enforcement, not about.
Yep, absolutely,
policy.
I fully agree with you.
Yeah. Councilman Mangan.
Chairman, actually, I agree with you on that. So what I would ask then, if we do vote favorable on this piece tonight, Mr. Chairman, is that when it does go out to our next council meeting, if we could just possibly get a correspondence, maybe from the ACO officer and as well as the chief, to make sure, and that way we could have it there that night, and I think would make us all feel a lot better, you know, certainly voting on it.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about from the animal control officer.
Correct.
Because she's going to follow her instructions from her direct supervisor, and she's gonna go by the ordinances. But because her direct supervisor, and this also opens it up to all police officers, I'm more interested in what the
Okay.
chief's perspective is gonna be on this.
Okay.
Or whether or not he's going to be advising his men that in lieu of her, in lieu of her being available, that they have this authority and they're expected to enforce it. So I think
Yeah,
it's a
so
great
I-
idea if we could get some feedback directly from the chief. I think by the time we vote for this, I think that would be.
Okay, then I would make the recommendation for favorable action, and then just ask that if we could possibly just, Mr. Clerk, if we could get
I will do that.
If you
I
could.
wrote a note for the
Right.
morning, or actually, maybe I'll
from
go
the
to my
chief,
office now.
And if you could possibly, as part of the, when we vote on it, our next meeting, if we could just maybe have some type of correspondence.
Absolutely, I will definitely ask
So
the
we
chief.
have a motion for favorable action pending direct feedback from police chief.
Correct.
Police chief, the chief of police. Thank
Correct.
you. Okay, a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Entertain a motion to.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we adjourn.